I'll never forget the sound of champagne flutes hitting the water, the bride screaming, and guests stumbling in panic as the dock I had built with my own hands drifted slowly into the middle of the lake. My dock, my sanctuary, turned into a floating circus because one arrogant woman decided she could take whatever she wanted. I stood there on the shore, arms folded, calm as stone, watching her empire unravel plank by plank. That woman was the president of our HOA, a woman named Linda Harris, though everyone just called her Linda, queen of the subdivision. And that night, her crown slipped right off and sank with her pride. See, I never thought I'd end up in a war with my neighbors, let alone over a stretch of floating wood. I bought that lakeside place for peace, not drama. That dock wasn't just timber and nails, it was where my boy caught his first fish, where my wife and I sat with coffee as the sun came up, where the stress of life melted into ripples on the water. I put every screw into it myself. That dock was mine, in every way that mattered. But if you've ever lived under the thumb of an HOA, you know peace is never permanent. And, in our neighborhood, trouble always had one name: Linda. Linda loved control like some people love whiskey. She lived for it. If you parked 2 inches over the curb, she wrote you up. If your grass dared to grow longer than regulation, she was out there snapping pictures with her clipboard. She had this way of twisting rules into weapons, smiling like she was doing you a favor while she ruined your day. Most folks kept their heads down to avoid her wrath, and for a while, I thought I'd done the same, until the morning I walked down to my shoreline and saw what she had planned. Rows of white folding chairs stood neatly lined up. Strings of lanterns dangled from the railings. Workers hauled crates of wine and set up floral arches right in the middle of my dock. And there was Linda, strutting around in a glittering dress like she owned the entire lake, barking orders at decorators. I stopped dead, coffee still hot in my hand, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I finally managed. "Linda, what the hell is going on here?" She didn't even look at me, just waved her hand toward the champagne table. Then she leaned in, her perfume strong and her voice low. "We're hosting my daughter's wedding here next week. The HOA approved it. You should feel honored." I actually laughed. "Honored? Lady, my name is on the deed. This is my dock." She tilted her head with that condescending smirk and whispered, "You live in this neighborhood. What's yours is ours. Don't embarrass yourself." Then she turned her back like I was nothing more than a mosquito buzzing in her ear. I should have lost it right then. I should have called the sheriff, maybe even a lawyer. But I froze. Who just steals a dock? Who has the gall to treat private property like a banquet hall? That night, my wife shook her head, telling me, "You can't let her win. She counts on people backing down." My son, overhearing, asked, "Dad, you're not really gonna let them do this, are you?" I wanted to say no, to reassure him, but I didn't, because deep down, I wasn't sure I had the guts to fight her. The days that followed turned my stomach. Trucks delivered wine, tables, lights. Every morning I walked out and found more decorations tied to my railings, ribbons fluttering like taunts. I ripped them off, tossed them onto the grass, and every time, Linda replaced them with double the arrogance, smiling as if she enjoyed the game. She called me selfish for not wanting 100 people stomping around on the dock I had built with blistered hands. Selfish. That word chewed at me, made me second-guess myself. Was I being unreasonable? Was one wedding really worth making enemies of the whole neighborhood? For a moment, I considered just swallowing my pride and letting it happen. But then I sat alone on the dock one evening, feet dangling in the water. I ran my hands across the boards, remembered every nail I drove into place. Every afternoon, my boy spent casting a line here. Every sunset my wife and I watched together. And I thought, if I let Linda take this, then it won't stop here. Next time it'll be my yard, my house, maybe even my dignity. That night, something hardened inside me. I wasn't going to just let it happen. The wedding day came like a parade. SUVs and luxury sedans clogged the street. Guests tottered down to the dock in heels unsuited for grass. Music floated across the lake. Violins tuning up. My dock was dressed up like a palace. White drapes cascading. Flower arches glowing. Lanterns strung overhead. And in the middle of it all was Linda, strutting like a queen. When she spotted me, she beamed that fake sugary grin and announced loudly, "Everyone, this is the homeowner. Isn't it sweet of him to let us use his dock?" Polite applause rippled through the crowd, glasses raised in my direction. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I leaned in close and hissed, "You know damn well I never agreed to this." She didn't blink. She just whispered, "Smile. Don't ruin Melissa's big day." So I stood there, through the vows, through the toasts, through the DJ blasting music that made my dock creak like it might split apart. Guests stumbled, heels denting boards I had spent hours sanding. Every laugh, every clink of glass, every careless stomp hammered deeper into me. And then Linda took the microphone. She thanked the HOA for approving the venue, called it a triumph of community spirit, and soaked in the cheers. My vision blurred with rage. My dock, my sanctuary, was her trophy. I walked away that night shaking with fury, but also with clarity. Because here's the thing Linda never knew. My dock wasn't fixed into the ground. It floated. It was held in place by 3 thick ropes tied to the shoreline. Ropes that could be untied. Ropes that could be cut. And in that realization, a plan took root. The following week, Linda swaggered up my path again, clipboard in hand, to inform me there would be a post-wedding gathering on the dock. She didn't ask, she demanded. "You can sulk all you want," she sneered. "But this is happening. Either you cooperate, or the HOA fines you for obstruction." That was it. The time, the place, the stage, it was all set. And I would write the finale. The next evening, about 30 guests crowded onto my dock for an encore celebration. A projector flickered wedding photos against a white sheet, laughter rising into the night. I lurked in the shadows, knife cool in my hand. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with adrenaline and anger. As the music swelled, I crouched near the ropes. One slice. Snap. The first rope gave way, the dock shifting just slightly. Nobody noticed. Another slice. The second rope. The dock lurched, rocking beneath their feet. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Linda waved her hand dismissively. "It's fine. Just the water." The final rope severed with a whisper. And then my dock floated free, slowly, gracefully, like it had been waiting for this moment. It drifted away from shore, carrying Linda and her entire party into the open lake. Gasps erupted. Champagne toppled. The projector flickered and died. Screams pierced the air. From the shadows I stepped forward, arms crossed, and shouted, "What's happening? You wanted my dock. Linda, well, now you've got it. All of it." Panic spread like wildfire. Guests clutched each other. Some tried to leap back to shore, landing in the shallows with ruined shoes. One man splashing headfirst into the lake. The bride sobbed, mascara streaking, crying to her mother. "You've ruined everything!" Linda spun in circles, shrieking. "Stay calm. The HOA has it under control." The HOA. I nearly laughed out loud. What was she going to do? Fine the wind? Write a violation for the lake? I cupped my hands and called out, "Enjoy the view. That's what you wanted, right? A lakeside experience." The crowd turned on her. Voices rose. "Why didn't you ask the owner? You lied to us. This is trespassing." Linda's mask cracked. She screamed at me, "You'll pay for this. I'll have you arrested." I spread my arms. "For what? Managing my own property? You lied. You stole my dock. And now you're stranded on it." Red and blue lights flickered in the distance. A sheriff's patrol boat approached, spotlight sweeping across the drifting fiasco. The officer's voice boomed, "Attention! Is anyone injured?" A chorus of embarrassed no's followed. "Then listen carefully," he said. "That dock is private property. The owner has every right to control it. Whoever organized this event is responsible for trespassing." The silence that followed was crushing. Guests turned to stare at Linda, their faces twisted in anger and humiliation. When the boat towed them back, neighbors gathered on shore, phones out, recording every second. Clips of Linda shrieking, mascara running, would be circulating by morning, as the soggy guests stumbled off, avoiding eye contact. Linda stood frozen, sequined dress dull in the headlights, her daughter hissing through tears. Never again. And in that moment, Linda Harris, the queen of the HOA, looked less like royalty and more like a dethroned tyrant. A week later, at an emergency HOA meeting, the treasurer stood and called for a vote of no confidence. Hands shot up all over the room. More than 2/3 voted to remove Linda as president. She sat trembling, her mouth opening and closing without words, before storming out, heels clacking against the tile like the final drumbeat of her reign. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. I simply walked out of that meeting knowing the truth. Sometimes justice doesn't come from courtrooms or handcuffs. Sometimes justice comes from cutting the rope and letting arrogance drift into the middle of the lake. And if there's one thing I learned, it's this. People like Linda only have power when you let them. Stand your ground, and they'll sink under the weight of their own pride.